Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is The Edge of Adventure. My name is Adam Asher, and it is great today to get to travel through technology to the rainforest in South America, to Brazil, as we introduce Binka Le Breton, who is joining us from Iracambí. Binka, how are you?
I'm good, Adam. How are you?
Doing great. Great to meet you and get an opportunity to get to know you guys a little bit better and share that experience with the audience. Binka, let's put this into perspective, though. I always like to kind of, let people get a grip on where we're going. Where are we? You are where right now, Binka?
I am sitting in my house in the middle of the Atlantic rainforest in Brazil. And Adam, it's important that the Atlantic rainforest is the other forest. It's not the Amazon. It's the forest that goes all the way up and down the coast in Brazil. It's a very, very important forest. It's been quite badly fragmented because things like Sao Paulo and Rio are in the Atlantic. But it's an amazing forest, and you are all invited to come visit us because it's gorgeous.
Binka, why is the rainforest important? I mean, big picture here, I know there's probably a lot of details that we can and will dig into, but we don't want to lose a rainforest, right? We don't want to lose it. I get that, but it's more than that. It's more than that. There's actual an importance to preserving such things. Talk to me about that.
Adam, if I had to do an elevator pitch for the rainforest, I'd say first thing, water, because the forest protects and provides us with water. Second thing, oxygen, fresh air. There's a very nice cartoon somewhere on the internet that says it's too bad that trees don't produce Wi-Fi because we would plant 1 billion. Too bad they only produce the oxygen that we breathe. And that's important in the COVID context, right? They sequester carbon. So in the current context of tremendous climate change things, which are happening all across the world, rainforests are more and more important, and the climate crisis may have been pushed a little bit into the background, what with COVID and the economy and all that, and the political ups and downs, but the climate crisis is here, is that we're going to mitigate it to the extent that we still can, okay?
This is The Edge of Adventure. Welcome, everybody, and great to have you with us. We're talking today with Binka Le Breton, who is joining us from an organization called Iracambí, and they are in an area of Brazil. Like she said, it's the other rainforest. It might be the one that we don't think about quite as often. Of course, the Amazon gets a lot of press, but the both of them are very important and very important to the environment for lots of reasons. We'll be talking about those today. And you are, for the sake of trying to kind of find this on a map, we would look for Minas Gerais, right? Okay.
It is the next state immediately north of Rio de Janeiro.
Okay. And Iracambí is a rainforest research center. And you guys do a lot of different things, and we're going to try to take these in little pieces so we can do it justice and talk about all of them. But in the grand scheme of things, you tend to pull together a lot of different types of people. You might say, in a way, you pull together unlikely combinations, and you've built this network. Tell me about that unlikely group of people.
Well, the great thing is there's a ton of people out there that want to save the world. And so we help them do that. We help them save the world by saving the rainforest in this area. So in a normal year, which of course is not this one, we would have 100 or so students on campus over the course of the year. But they wouldn't necessarily be young people. They might be people of any age, any background. They could be midlife crisis people who are taking time out, can be, undergraduates, graduates, researchers. We've had them from like 70 countries. And they come into our little rainforest campus, which has room for about 30 people. And we are out in the forest. The internet is usually okay. We don't have television, so we sit around and we talk, and we look at thorny problems like climate change and sustainability and biodiversity conservation. And amazing things come out. If you get different people together and they all want to save the world and they all have their different backgrounds, amazing things happen. So what we do is we look at these problems. How are we going to do? What are we going to do about climate change? We come up with some solutions. We try them. Sometimes we succeed. Sometimes we fail. We try again. And we just keep going till we get it done.
Binka, as the students and the participants join you on campus, what are they learning?
They are learning what it's like to be in the sort of battlefront, on the forefront of biodiversity conservation on one hand and sustainability on the other, because we're often hearing that we can't afford, to be all kind of romantic about the environment because we've got to have economic development, particularly in a country like Brazil, where development is very unequal. It's a very unequal country.
I notice that you like to have volunteers join you. You like to have people who are doing research, perhaps for further education, interns. Talk to me about the different types of people that join you. And you said you have, is it a max of 30 at a time, or what's the total number of people that you might have there on campus at any given moment?
We have accommodation for 30. I mean, we can stretch it a little bit, but not too much. In a normal year, there might be people from 5 or 6 different nationalities in Portuguese. So everybody needs to have, a little bit of one of those. And a large amount would be sort of gap year students, undergraduates, postgraduates. But there's always a stream of kind of older people who are having, who are rethinking their lives and want to do something completely different. And that's what makes it such a rich environment. This mixture of working with the local farm kids, the local community, the local farmers, and then, a college professor or a lawyer or a techie from different countries and different languages and different experiences. And that's what makes it work.
We are talking today to Binka Le Breton, who is joining us from Iracambí in the city or the state of Minas Gerais in Brazil. Okay. And Binka's telling us a little bit about the Rainforest Research Center that they have there. I've got to go to this line of questioning next, Binka. How did you get involved in this? When did you become passionate about this? Tell us about your background.
Well, my profession, my first I was a concert pianist. So I was classical music. I was a good concert pianist, not in the top league, not a name that would make you gasp, but a good concert pianist, married to a guy who worked in the World Bank as an environmental economist. We raised our kids on 5 continents. That was very cool. And he was doing his environmental economics thing, and I was doing my music thing. And then, because back in the day, you married quite young and had your kids quite young. So when you were 40, there was still kind of some life ahead, and your kids were in college, and you didn't have any big bills to pay, or we didn't. And so it was a bit of a midlife crisis. So what are we going to do now? We've done the first bit. What happens next? And my husband, actually, Robin, and I'm quoting him because he's not here at the moment, so he can't defend himself, but he pulled a bit of a trick on me, so watch out, ladies. I was playing the piano, something really, really complicated, and I was playing away, and he stood behind me and he muttered something, and I said, yes, like, go away, I'm busy. And then when I finished the piece, I discovered that what he'd actually said was, how about we go we were living in Washington, D.C. at the time, abandon this life of do-gooding and go off and see on a completely different adventure to see if this sustainability thing really works or not. So I had kind of said yes, because, just to shut him up, right? And I thought, well, why not? So we got an atlas of the world and we looked. What he wanted to do was to find a piece of land and see if it was possible to make it sustainable. Okay. This was nearly 30 years ago. And we looked at the map and we found that it's not easy to buy land in many countries. He's a kind of tropical creature. He's born and raised in Kenya. He wanted a country where it doesn't snow. We had already lived in Brazil with the World Bank. We spoke Portuguese. So we bought a patch of rainforest in Brazil, and we got into a car in Washington, D.C., and we decided to take a 6-month time out of time in between lives, and we drove to Brazil. And that was the best decision we'd ever made, to take time to be together and start on this new adventure together. So that was how it started.
You drove to Brazil from
Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm.
Give me, because that's actually the kind of thing I would love to do and hope to do in the future for my own midlife crisis. But listen, give me a couple of highlights, things that were like, wow, you got to be kidding me. We would have missed this had we not driven all the way.
Okay, well, I guess the send off. We're in DC, we're staying with friends. A lot of them have said, what a great idea. Most of them have said, are you crazy? And they said, well, no, just go do it. And, you'll be back. You'll be back next year or whatever. So it's quite an event when you're going to drive, from Washington to Brazil. So it was a Sunday and we had, a really good, proper American breakfast with waffles and coffee and all this, and everybody hugging and kissing us and saying goodbye. And we were in 2 cars at that point. We were in the trusty Land Rover that was to bring us to Brazil, and another car that had been used as a commuting car that was going to go out and stay with some friends while we were away. Commuting car, which was an Alfa Romeo. And the first thing that happened was it stopped absolutely dead. So we obviously were not going to get even as far as the Beltway with that car. So that was a bit of excitement. And when people say goodbye to you, it's really a good thing to leave, Anyway, our friends were really good and they cooked up some more waffles and we went back. And Robin, who is an expert, at fixing cars. And so we set off. So it was raining very, very hard. Later that day, it came on to rain. And we decided we were going to camp, but we decided that we would stay in a motel that night, just the first night, somewhere in West Virginia. And it was a little place where the walls between the rooms in the motel were obviously made of cardboard. And we heard a right old argument next door and gunshots. And we thought, oh my goodness, this is the real world. We're not in the World Bank in Washington, D.C. anymore. We're heading out into the bush. So that was the first adventure. And then when we got to Costa Rica, several weeks later, we were going to meet our kids who were at college then during this 6-month adventure trip. And we were somewhere driving in Costa Rica in the Land Rover when the gearbox went, and we only had second gear and no reverse. So we thought we can't drive to South America if we only have second gear. So that was another adventure, but it all got solved. We made lots of friends in Costa Rica. We figured out how to fix it. And eventually we did get to Brazil with no further dramas.
Binka Le Breton is my guest today from Iracambí in Brazil. And that is a rainforest research center. And, with all this and the years that you've spent there and the time in Brazil, and I guess what I want to know is this love for the rainforest. Talk to me about that. What is it about the rainforest that you love?
After we got to Brazil, remember I was a concert pianist and I have a piano. It's in this room, a beautiful grand piano, but I could no longer play because I didn't have an audience. I needed that kind of feedback that I'd had as a musician all those years. So I had a bit of a crisis myself after the initial early days of this fabulous adventure. You know, there was no internet and communications were really, really bad. The telephone hardly worked, and, you know, mail took a long time. A friend of mine in the States and saying, you know, not quite sure what I'm going to do. And she said, well, why don't you, because you are a pianist and you communicate, why don't you write books? Because any fool can write. So I thought, well, thank you. I love you too. And maybe any fool can write, but maybe any fool can't write, can't publish. And then I thought, what am I going to write about? And then I thought, I looked out of the window and I saw the rainforest, and I thought, that's it. I'm going to write about the rainforest. I'm going to write about, you know, I'm just going to immerse myself into rainforests and rainforest people and start writing about that. And so I did, and then I got published, and then I started traveling the world on book tours and lecture tours about the Brazilian rainforest, because there didn't seem to be very many voices for the rainforest, right? And one day I was in England, and a guy said to me, you guys got a rainforest? And I said, yes, we have some patch of rainforest. And he said, so what are you doing to protect it? I keep hearing about Brazil cutting down the forest, and what are you guys doing? So I went back to Brazil and I said, I think we need to do something to protect the rainforest, not just the sustainability aspect, but actually actively to protect it. So that was when we started the NGO and the research center. And there's something about the forest that is very challenging and very healing. It's the most extraordinary place to be. And it wasn't until much later that I came across the Japanese concept of forest bathing, being in the forest, and how healing it is, and how much good it does you. And once you got the rainforest bug, you know, you're done. There's no turning back. There's no reverse gear.
This is the Edge of Adventure, and we are focusing on Brazil today and Minas Gerais and the organization, the NGO Iracambí. And of course, if you're watching the video version of this, you've seen the website that is posted on the screen, iracambí.com. And for those of you listening to the audio version, and I know so many of you do, and by the way, let me just pause a second to tell everybody how much I appreciate you listening. And especially in recent weeks and months, as I've seen the numbers come back to more and more people listening and sharing, I just want to welcome everybody to the Edge of Adventure family, and just know that it means a lot to me, and to get to share these stories. And anyway, but yeah, you need to know what the website is. So it's Iracambí, and I will spell that for you. Iracambi. Iracambí.com, and you'll find out more information. And of course, if you're like, Adam, that's too much, I don't know, I didn't get a chance to write that down or something, then all you got to do is go to theedgeofadventure.com, and there will be a post for this broadcast, and you'll find all the links to all their information there. And please do that, because it's a beautiful website. It's a beautiful project. And it certainly, when you go to the website, Binka, it absolutely, whoever designed this for you, you gotta let them know they did a great job, because it really does your work justice. And that, you know, the quintessential colors for Brazil, that yellow and green, and of course that's the flag. And I had the opportunity in recently, a while back, to go to Brazil, and sincerely, I'm being completely honest here, the thing that hit me after traveling some there on the Atlantic coast, I realized I understand why yellow and green are the colors of Brazil. You understand that when you've been there, because the sun is so bright, and you feel it, and yet also the vegetation is so green, and you feel like you're in this zone of yellow and green. So congratulations on a great website and all these great projects. As these people join you, and I know we're coming out of a challenging time, and there probably, I'm guessing, have been some limitations on you guys, as like there has been on all of us for the last year and a half or so. What are you looking at for the future? When do you want to get a new round of students or participants to join you at Iracambí in Brazil?
Well, had we known 18 months ago that we would be still in the same place virtually 18 months later, we might have despaired somewhat. And to look forward, it's hard. We are planning to have international students to visit us if they're allowed in, probably towards the end of this year. And our big, hairy project, which is something that came out of COVID, because Adam, like everybody else, when COVID struck, our first reaction was, oh my God, we've hit, a brick wall. How are we going to survive? How are we going to adapt? And we had to because we basically do education on the one hand and ecosystem restoration on the other. And of course, they're both very closely connected. And we had to stop and rethink our programs, particularly in view of not having all the international students with us. So we had to put our education programs online. And then what happened with the planting, you can't plant trees online, right? But luckily, it's a pretty socially distanced activity. And everything that we do is basically outdoors because, we're collecting seeds from the forest, making little seedlings, putting them in the forest nursery, caring for them, and then planting them out, on the planting sites. But what happened in September, October last year, we suddenly got this call from out of a clear blue sky from a guy in India. And he said, I've been looking at your program. I love it, but you're not doing nearly enough, nearly well enough, nearly fast enough. You need to have a real big, hairy goal, like planting 100,000 trees or planting 1 million trees, Your 10,000 little trees a year, that's okay, but that's not really going to do it. So your first reaction is, well, no, you're right, but so then this guy says, so what's stopping you? So you then have to think, you think of all the reasons why you can't take on this crazy challenge. You need land, and you need seedlings, and you need money, and you need people. And he very gently walked us through this, and he said, you've got the land. There's lots of land in Brazil. That's not a problem. You can make the seedlings and buy some more seedlings in. There's people around you can get to help you plant the seedlings, and don't worry about the money, because if you're on the right track, the money will come. And so suddenly kind of everything went into high gear. And our current goal is to plant 1 million trees by 2030. I don't know if we're going to make it, but it's always good to have a big goal to go for. And as you step out, amazing things happen. You get contacted by amazing people wanting to help in one way or another. So that's what we're doing now, is we're looking for a really large scale forest restoration project. And anybody who comes to visit us will find him or herself involved in that.
Binka Le Breton is my guest today here on The Edge of Adventure. And Robin, her husband, couldn't be with us today, but please, on behalf of me and everybody here at The Edge of Adventure, you got to tell Robin we look forward to meeting him one day, especially since he got you guys into this. That's right. I mean, he came up with this crazy idea, and apparently you weren't paying attention, and you said yes. And here you are all this time later, and you love it. So congratulations to that. So regarding Iracambí, right? And again, please look them up online at iracambí.com. And if spelling is a challenge on that, again, you can just go to theedgeofadventure.com, and we've got their information there, so you can find them. Iracambí, let's ask a couple of quick questions about that. What does Iracambí mean, or what is the significance behind that?
The name is in the Tupi Indian language, and it means the land of milk and honey. or the promised land. Tupi, Tupi, it's one of the groups of Indian languages or Native American languages here in Brazil. So it's the Tupi language.
Iracambí, and you find more at iracambí.com. Problems, solutions. Look, we've been talking about those, with COVID being one of them, but I think in your at Iracambí, you guys, it's sort of I feel like that's a thing you guys go through where problems do come up and you embrace them and you look for solutions. Is this what you're training the students as well to think in this form?
I think, Adam, when you get outside your comfort zone is when the magic happens. And so, and there's, I don't know if you're familiar with the expression in Portuguese, dá o jeito, means, figure it out, right? And that whole concept of figuring it out is, there is some impossible problem, like the internet is cut out, a tree has fallen down across the road, there's no water, somebody's broken their leg, and, the car's not working, whatever. And it's just figuring out a creative way of dealing with the problem. First of all, in the short term, of course, if it's an emergency, and then in the longer term. And once you realize that there's nothing you can't do, if between us we sit down and figure it out, then there is nothing that we can't do.
Binka, big picture, what do you want Iracambí to accomplish?
Adam, I would like it to be a go-to place for people who want to solve some of these big problems. The conservation of biodiversity, this is one of the most important forests in the world for conserving biodiversity. The question of climate change, the question of social justice, all these things we are connected to in one way or another. And when people come here and work with us, they help us and they bring their knowledge and their experience and their enthusiasm and their energy. And they leave, and because it all mixes with all the other people, they leave and they go back to their places of origin and they do extraordinary things. And so we keep in touch with our network of students, about 2,000 of them so far, in 70 different countries. And, they range from somebody who's a clown in refugee camps in Iraq to, university professors and entrepreneurs and all kinds of extraordinary ways that people's lives have been changed just by taking that adventure, going out on the edge and outside the comfort zone.
Binka, if we are listening, what can the rainforest teach us?
I think it can teach us that the planet is much bigger and much more magnificent than we are. And that if we screw up, we're gone. And the planet eventually will survive without us. So I think it's extraordinarily important for us to understand that we are just an integral part of the whole web of existence. And of course, it's up to us to do what we can to protect it. But if we don't protect it, life will go on and we will be the ones that will lose out.
Binka, as we draw now to the close of the program today, this episode, a couple more questions. Tell me about the Brazilian people. Tell me about the people of Minas Gerais.
Extraordinarily resilient, fun, communicative, just everyday life in Brazil is, you can't figure out what's going to happen. You don't know. Every day is a surprise. Most days are fabulous. Some days drive you completely nutty. But at the end of the day, it's the people who make it all worth doing. And when we chose all those years ago to look for a place to see if sustainability really worked, our criteria were in Portuguese: serra, mata e gente boa, mountains, forest, and nice people. And my goodness, we lucked out.
So very true. Gente boa. I love that. What a beautiful language, too, Portuguese is. Okay, so let's see here. I guess the next thing I got to ask is, what type of an invitation might you have to the people watching and listening? How can they get involved? How can they be supportive, as things open up? If they were interested in coming to the campus and being with you guys for a while, learning some more and doing some research there, what are the opportunities that are available to them? And just in general, how could people come alongside you guys and be a part of what you're doing?
Just ping us, just send us a message, and we'll set up a chat with you, and we'll figure out, how we can both be useful to one another. So we'd love to see you. We understand that not everybody's available to hop on a plane and come to Brazil, but if you do, I promise you, you won't regret it, right? If you can't do that, let's talk. You can do stuff for us sitting at your desk, wherever you are in the world. And I hope that we can do stuff for you. So thank goodness for the internet. It's been our lifeline in the last 18 months. It always was. It's, some days it's better, some days it's worse, but it keeps us in touch with people across the world. So please get in touch. We'd love to see you. We'd love to chat. And I'm sure we can be helpful to each other. Okay.
Binka, okay, I've got another question for you. If Adam Asher were to go to Brazil and go to Minas Gerais and Iracambí, what would I need to bring with me?
Adam, when you come, what you need to bring with you is a Land Rover. And you can drive it from Atlanta to Brazil.
So I think that's a fantastic idea. I think I need to take a Land Rover, a vehicle of some kind like that, and then drive that thing all the way down to Minas Gerais. I think that's a great idea. Let me take a look at my calendar and see when I can make that happen.
All right.
Well, thank you so much to my guest today, Binka Le Breton, joining us from Iracambí. And you can look them up online at iracambí.com. And once again, if maybe Portuguese or languages is not your thing and you're like, I don't really know how to spell that, just look it up at theedgeofadventure.com. You've got that website. You've been there before. Just go there and look for the post from Iracambí, this broadcast, and it starts IRA, or it is spelled IRACAMBI. Not really that difficult. I mean, it just, when you say Iracambí, it can be intimidating, but it is a great organization. They're doing great work in the rainforest of Minas Gerais in Brazil. We've learned a little bit about them, but there's so much more to tell. I encourage you to go to their website, get to know them. And as Binka said, just ping them, reach out to them, let them know that you want to find out more, and maybe just encourage them. Tell them that you see them and you know that what they do, it's a great project. I'm sure it's got its ups and downs. It's probably got its tough days, but encourage them and let them know that you appreciate what they're doing for the rainforest and for the people, and in turn, of course, for the planet in general. And as you said, Binka, uh, individually, we're all here and gone. The planet is going to be here, and it's important for us to take care of it for many, many reasons. So, all right. Thank you. Great conversation. Binka, again, please give your husband, Robin, my best. And I look forward to being in touch with you guys again in the near future.
Thanks, Adam. Take care. Bye now.